I've finally gotten around to reading Shattered Silk by Barbara Michaels. So this is the book that takes place between Amy Come Home and Stitches in Time, which I've talked about before. And I'm definitely noticing a theme here. It seems like all the books in this set tend to focus around women who are at a particularly low point in their lives in regards to the relationships that they have with other people. Like, a lot of the focus is on their relationships with men, but also their relationships with just, like friends and other women and stuff in general. So the main character of this particular story is Karen. So she's the sister of Sarah from book 1 and one of the shop owners that the main character from book 3 works for. So Karen is going through a really difficult divorce with her college professor husband, who she was married to for 10 years. And during that time, he honestly, I guess, was kind of abusive emotionally towards her, so that by this point has really low self-esteem and basically no confidence to speak of. So she's having a really hard time adjusting. And it doesn't really help that as far as the rest of the world is concerned, she doesn't really have any marketable skills. So she also needs to figure out what exactly she can do with her life now that she's not basically a housewife. So this story follows Karen as she begins working at someone else's antique store and comes to the idea of possibly starting a store related to antiques of her own, focusing on vintage clothing. And I think what was really cool about this story was its focus on, I think, the way she found her confidence again. It really, I think, walked through the process of finding something that she could be passionate about and, getting out of this emotional rut where you feel like you're just this really terrible person when it's partly because of the life that she's been living. So as a story about how a woman pulls herself together and really starts to build her life up again, it's a really well put together story, and it talks a lot about the process of beginning to run a vintage clothing store, a lot of the considerations, like going to auctions, and I think learning about that entire process was pretty cool. Something that did not turn out so well, I think, was the mystery element of this story. As a mystery, I think it was a little bit weak because you couldn't really, I guess, when I found out, I kind of suspected who did everything because they acted suspiciously, but in terms of their motives and everything, it caught me completely by surprise at the end. And I even read the story a second time just to see if maybe I just didn't pick up on the clues, but frankly I think the clues are just so vague that it doesn't really stand up very well as a mystery story. But yeah, other than, as it wasn't really the really interesting part of the story anyway, so I don't think it mattered too much, because as a relationship story and the friendships she builds with her ex-boyfriend's sister and the relationship she picks up again with her former boyfriend and the other people that she meets and just her rediscovery of herself and who she actually wants to be, made this a really good read anyway. So yeah, that's it for today's bite-sized book review, and I hope it was helpful if you're interested in... Oh, one more thing. So unlike both books 1 and 3, this one actually had no supernatural elements. I think that kind of caught me by surprise. Since the first book was a ghost story and the last one was kind of a ghost curse related story, I think the fact that this story actually had no magical elements whatsoever was a little bit of a surprise. But like I said, I think really the main focus of this series is on the women and their relationships, so it wasn't really a big deal.